Hello, this is episode 269, where we're chatting about how keto changes over time from when you start it to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. We're chatting also about carnivore, personality, and macros. So what your personality does to how you're able to manage your macros, what kind of macro tracking you use because of your personality, boosting the metabolic rate, and so much more. Our guest today is Maura Vega, and this is actually an episode that we did forever ago. So if you hear some past things about book tours and stuff, know that this episode happened a little while ago, but the information is so key, and I wanted to highlight today's episode because the information is just so important for women to hear that are on keto. So before we get to the recording, I have a little favorite ask of you. If you have one of my books and you love it or you don't, leave a review. You can go on Goodreads or Amazon, wherever you purchase the book, and leave a review. It helps other people find the book, understand whether or not it would work for them, and helps me understand if what I'm creating is working for you. If you have questions about today's content, you can go to healthfulpursuit.com/contact and ask me. This is also how your questions get on a future episode of the podcast, so I can answer your question. I was going to say in real time, but it takes me a while, a couple weeks, sometimes a month to read it and then put it on a show. You can catch up on previous podcast episodes and notes from today's show by going to ketodietpodcast.com. Okay, let's do this thing. Hey, I'm Leanna Vogel, and you're listening to the Keto Diet Podcast. I've put together a free 21-page guide on achieving weight loss on your keto diet if nothing is working, as a little thank you for being here today. Grab your free guide at ketoforwomen.com to get the steps you need to overcome the hurdles standing in your way. Okay, so today's guest is Maura Vega. She's a Miami native who has always had a love for fitness and nutrition. She was classically trained in various styles of dance and was competitive during her high school years. She now dedicates her time to her children, whom she unschools. Maura shares free workout videos, recipes, and nutrition information on her Instagram page, Fat Fueled Mom. Along with her husband and 2 sons, she runs a YouTube channel where she shares her parenting and education philosophy, her adventures with the family, and nutrition and fitness information. So today we're going to be chatting all about how keto is different for women. So if you're feeling completely lost with I have a partner or a man in my life that eats keto and I've just followed along his path and I'm not having success, you might want to check out my program, Fat Fueled. Okay, so let's get over to this interview. Hey, Maura, how's it going?
I'm doing good, Leanna. How are you?
I'm so good. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I almost feel like I made it being on your podcast.
Oh my gosh, not even a thing. That's
too cool.
Oh, thanks so much. I really like it too. I really love doing this. This is my favorite thing.
I can imagine. I've honestly told Danny that, I don't know, maybe in the future, we've got a lot of stuff going on, but it's totally something that I always have fun doing these interviews, and it's so something that I wouldn't mind in the future doing.
Yeah, and you can sit in your pajamas, or you can be anywhere and do it. It's so great. You can have a top bun and nobody cares because it's not video.
I love it. It's great.
So for listeners that may not be familiar with your work, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about you and what you do?
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Miami, and my husband, many people know him. He was on your show. When was he on your show? Maybe a month or so ago.
I don't know, sometime. We had a great time.
It was great. Danny Vega, that's my husband. And we moved to Tampa in 2014 with our 2 boys. We unschool them. I'm lucky that I'm able to be home with them. So we're homeschooling, but not just homeschool. We unschool them. And I love it. It's awesome. The whole family is on this ketogenic journey, and it's been great.
Wow. And what was that transition for you? Have you always raised your kids on keto, or what did that look like when you were okay, house is going keto?
Okay. Well, it wasn't easy because, again, we do unschool, and a big part of our belief in the way that we raise them is just giving them total freedom. We don't risk life or limb or anything, but we really everyone is autonomous here. Everyone is equal. And we really try to give them freedom over their body and their choices. So, but yeah, they were not always keto. My youngest, Desmond, when he was born, we were actually paleo at that time. And so he had a really good start in life because paleo is awesome for kids. It's a really great way to teach them to eat whole foods. And he was just a beast. But when Dean was born, we were kind of doing something else. And If It Fits Your Macros was kind of popular, and that's kind of what we were doing. And then we were really letting them be free, really, like just to see what would happen, and just model the behavior for them. So we were keto for about a year. And I mean, they would still, and it would pain me, of course, because I knew this information, but I wanted it to come from them. And I didn't want to like build any weird like relationships around food for them. And so it was really hard for us, but it got to the point where, Desmond has really, really bad environmental allergies. Dean has eczema and he has like mood issues, which I totally understand. And we had gone on this vacation where we left them with family. And when we got back, like everybody was just so sick. Desmond was having nosebleeds like a few times a day, and having those nosebleeds, it's like so much blood. Like he hates it now. So he's 7 and he was already getting to the point where he hated it. And so since he was older and he had already been watching us for a year, I'm really big about, modeling the behavior that you want to see in your children. I don't like do as I say, not as I do. I don't really think that works. It didn't work for me as a child. I always remember feeling like, okay, that doesn't really make sense. And so we had already been modeling this diet for them. And so, Desmond would sometimes, offer me a bite of his treats, and I would politely decline and take that opportunity to explain why. And he would ask why. And I would let him know, like, no, I don't eat sugar. This is why. And so anyways, he was just so sick. And we told him, we were like, listen, why don't you do an experiment? He had been, Danny's always doing some kind of experiment. And so he's always hearing about Danny's experiments. And he was like, all right, fine. And we're like, what do you think? Like 3 days? You want to just do keto for 3 days? And it was for him, he's a really big steak guy. So I knew that if I could just feed him a lot of the food that he already likes, that like, it's like, I just got to get your brain on ketones and like, that'll do the rest. It's like, and I'm like, I just got to get him there. And then I know that like the ketones will do the rest. And it's just so funny. Kids react so much faster than we do. They are just so much less damaged metabolically than we are. And he had like a tiny little headache. He was all about it. He had like a tiny little headache on the second day. And then that's it. He wasn't even asking for stuff. And then Dean kind of just is keto by association. Like I just would offer him foods that he likes that are keto. And we did have to, like in the beginning, we don't have to do this so much now, but in the beginning we did have to, offer them keto versions of their favorite foods. So we did like fathead pizzas, Carrie Brown ice cream, to show them that they can still, eat stuff that tastes good and that they can enjoy and that doesn't hurt them. And that's really how we got by at first. And then it just became, what we do. It's just what we do, and it is a little easier that we kind of live away from family and stuff. So we don't really have and it is definitely easier that they're not in school and being offered stuff on a daily basis. So that does make it easier in a way. But yeah, it's been great. And they've had such great success with it. And they love it as well.
If you've been doing keto for a while, you know about Perfect Keto. They are a household name. If you haven't tried them yet, you must. My most favorite thing about Perfect Keto is their bars. They are delicious, 100% real food. There's no funky ingredients. And the coolest thing is that they are giving us all 20% off everything, plus free shipping and a free nut butter on orders over $80 or more. You can use the code KDP at checkout for your 20% off everything, plus free shipping and your free nut butter on your order of $80 or more. It is very easy to spend $80 or more on Perfect Keto. Now you can go to perfectketo.com/KDP, load up your cart. If you're unsure of what to get, just hit me up on Instagram at Leanne Vogel and I will happily tell you which ones are my favorite. Now this free nut butter will only last until supplies last. last probably through till the end of December. So if you're thinking that you want that free nut butter, who doesn't want free keto nut butter? Head on over to perfectketo.com/KDP, load up your cart, use KDP coupon code and get 20% off everything, plus free shipping and your free nut butter. Enjoy.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And the process is so different than what a lot of parents think. Like, I'm just going to give them this and that's all that there is. And I know that that's how my household was when I was a kid. It was like, we eat this way and no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we didn't really understand why. So that's really cool to educate your children on, like, this is why I choose this. And then they get to make up their own mind. That's really cool. And like, how did it differ between your body and your husband's body? Like, does your keto look different than Danny's?
Well, when we first started, obviously the biggest thing, and I've like over time, I've noticed this, that I just feel like us women, we take longer to adapt. So I got Danny didn't have the keto flu at all. I got the actual flu. I was like knocked out in bed, but I didn't really, when we started keto, I kind of just went, like, Danny's the one that had the idea. And I just went along with it because I was sick of what we were doing. And I had already experimented with paleo in the past. And I knew that I felt better on a higher fat diet. And so I was totally all about it. But I didn't do my research about like electrolytes or anything. And I'm sure, I didn't do any of that. And that totally made it so much worse. So I was like knocked out for a week, but it also just took me longer to become adapted than him. I felt kind of crappy in the gym for like 2 to 4 months maybe. And then little by little, I started feeling better. And then we have, our hormones, and it's just, I feel like everything's harder for us.
Yes.
It's just harder. It's just harder to find a balance for women. Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. And so what does your keto look like now? Like, it sounds like the first couple of months were a little bit of a struggle trying to figure out how you were different. But do you feel pretty confident in how you're feeding yourself now and you've kind of gotten into the zone?
Yeah. Do you mean like how's keto different from like when I started and now?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, when we've been keto for, let's say, so it started when Dean, his second birthday, and he's going to turn 4. So yeah, we're like approaching 2 years now. And at first it started off how most people start, eating, making all the recipes, eating casseroles and all of that stuff. And just recently, within the last year, I've been, experimenting a little bit more with carnivore after having some like GI issues that I was going through, even with keto. And so that's the way that I eat now is just super simple. I'm pretty much carnivorous most of the time. And I do have like some nuts here and there, and it depends, like peely nuts and macadamias are okay for me. If I eat too many almonds or like almond flour products or almond butters, that tends to like make me bloated and I have more negative effects towards those. But I really do try to just keep it to animal products. I do eat dairy. I don't have any problems with dairy, but yeah, I'm not really eting too many vegetables these days.
There's such a huge theme going on in my life right now with carnivore. I feel like this is like a sign from the universe.
I know.
Everyone I talk to is like, carnivore, carnivore.
Yeah, it's booming right now. It's like the new thing, which is hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I want to chat a little bit more about carnivore. I know we weren't even planning on that today, but I feel like this is an ongoing theme in the keto space right now. And I'd love to just pick your brain about how it came about and what your experience is about it as a woman.
So carnivore, of course, at first to me, just like most people, the thought of like getting rid of vegetables was just not even an option for me. Like we're told our entire lives that vegetables, that are the best thing that you can eat. Obviously you eat meat, but there's you need all these things like from vegetables. You need fiber, you need all of this. How am I going to go to the bathroom? All of these things, all these things that we grow up thinking. And for good reason, this is what we're told. And Danny had already been doing a little bit of research. He's always like just diving deeper into everything and listening to as many podcasts and lectures that he can. And he had already discovered Amber O'Hearn and Dr. Georgia Ede. And he had been telling me about it, but just like anything, it's harder to, we all don't mind. It's like the psychology of, and Dr. Georgia E talks about this, like the psychology of adding something to your diet. Like it's easy to add something, but it's not easy to take something away. Nobody wants to take something away. And so, and I truly, truly enjoy vegetables. Like I like vegetables. Danny and most men don't really care for them. And so it's a little easier of a sell to them, I've realized. But what was going on was I was doing my cut with Robert Sykes, Keto Savage, and I had started introducing, I was getting low on calories. And so I was having these big salads for dinner, for volume, because you just volume. And I was randomly throwing up in the middle of the night. Like it would wake me up in the middle of the night, like just this horrific bloating, like your stomach just feels like a rock. And almost like my body was totally rejecting something. Like that's how it felt. It felt like my body was just like, no, whatever's in there needs to come out. And I would throw up and then I would feel fine. I would be fine. And I would go to sleep. But it was starting to become a reoccurring theme. And it took me a while to notice that it was like after I had this big salad and it was like spinach and all this other stuff. And I've always kind of ate these things, I've always had bloating and GI issues that are quote unquote hereditary, but I thought I needed fiber. I thought that was going to, if anything, it was only going to help me with these issues. But we were about to leave on a trip to Puerto Rico. And I had thrown up that the night before, and I was just so sick of it. It would wake me up in the middle of the night, and I would feel so uncomfortable, and like it's not pleasant to throw up. And I was just like, this is so annoying already. I can't take this. I don't know what's going on, and I think it's the salad. Honestly, I'm like, I can't at this point, because I started to pay attention, and Danny's like, all right, you got to hear this. You got to hear this. Georgia Eat, I told you. And how it is. Like, he's like, I told you. He's like, you got to hear this Georgia Eat. And I'm like, all right, well, perfect. We're going on a vacation. We're going on we're going to take a flight. And so I downloaded it. I'm like, all right, I'm going to listen to it. I listened to a few Georgia Eat podcasts and some Amber O'Hearn podcasts. And it honestly just blew my mind. It blew my mind the way that she explained the science behind how vegetables or how plants defend themselves, how they work. And I was like, this makes perfect sense. This totally makes sense to me in my brain. Like this makes sense. What she's saying makes sense. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. While we're in Puerto Rico, I'm going to try it. I'm going to just see what happens. I'm going to only eat meat for these next three or 4 days. The first day I lost like 2 or 3 pounds and my bloating immediately went away. And I never threw up again after that. And I couldn't deny those immediate results. You know what I mean? And so I was just like, I can't believe this. This is ridiculous. And so not only did I lose a few pounds that week, which was awesome because I broke through a plateau where I was trying to cut body fat, but I felt so much better. I didn't have any bloating, anything. Like it was from going from like being so like in so much discomfort, so much bloating, so much GI distress, like just like acid reflux and the throwing up in the middle of the night to nothing. And so I was like, wow, this is staggering. And I wasn't having any issues going to the bathroom or anything because that was of course, my concern. That's what most people are concerned about when they're like, but what about fiber? And so, I mean, it was just working, but I didn't go full carnivore. I still tried to, but and little by little, as time progressed, you just start to notice, it started to become more obvious because I was so like, the only way I can explain it is like, I feel so clean inside. Like it's like this feeling where you almost become so in tune with your body that you notice how every single thing affects you. So that's what I've been telling people. I'm like, the best elimination diet, honestly, is to go on an all meat diet. Like if you really want to see what affects you, go on an all meat diet and then reintroduce things back in, and then you will see. Because as you're eating, I've eaten vegetables my whole life, and some days were better than others, and you like become accustomed to them. Your gut bacteria, you're gonna have those bacteria there to help you. But and so over time, I just realized that every time I would eat, and it's certain things, I can get away with like, low sugar fruits like avocados, zucchini, cucumbers, pickles. I love. I still eat that stuff. But like if it's like broccoli or like salads, anything like that, immediately I'm bloated and I gain weight. It's like the craziest thing. Like you would never think that you would gain weight eating vegetables, and I gain weight. And it's so obvious these days because I don't eat it that much anymore. So when I do quote unquote cheat with a salad, because I do enjoy it, I have these effects, and so it gets to the point that it's like, yeah, I do enjoy those foods, but I don't enjoy how I feel when I eat it. And so it's just been a crazy ride at this point. Like sometimes I'm just like, I can't even. And honestly, I've never been a huge meat eater as like in like eating steak. I'm more of like a fish, and like I like chicken. I mean, I like a steak, but I'm not like Danny. Like Danny can eat steak. And here's one way where we're totally different. Like Danny can eat a steak for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day and be the happiest person on earth. I get like so tired of the chewing or something. I don't know. I think it's the chewing, honestly, like the chewing. After a while, I'm like, I can't chew any more steak. So I have to have more variety than he does. Like I have to do like burgers, ground beef. I do a lot of eggs, but yeah, that's kind of how it all came to be. And then since then, I just keep doing, I keep learning about it and seeing other people's results. And I'm just like, wow, this is incredible. And this can really help people, especially people that are having GI trouble. It's crazy.
I've been using ButcherBox for years, and I love the convenience of clean animal protein delivered right to my home. And if you're new to ButcherBox and you'd like to make your very first order right now, you will receive 2 pounds of grass-fed and finished ground beef in every single order for the lifetime of your membership. You can go to butcherbox.com/keto diet to sign up today. This offer is available until September 23rd, 2020. Now, I get all of my meat from ButcherBox because they source the highest quality at great prices. In addition to their pasture-raised beef, they also source free-range organic chicken, heritage-bred pork, and seafood, and you never have to pay for shipping. If you don't already have a ButcherBox membership, now's the time to join. When you order your first box, you'll receive 2 pounds of 100% grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef in every order for the lifetime of your membership. Go to butcherbox.com/keto diet to start your membership and receive 2 pounds of ground beef every month for life. Again, this offer ends September 23rd, 2020.
Wow. Okay, I have one more carnivore question. Do you think it's a long-term thing? I know I get the first keto question I get from people that don't understand keto. They're like, but can it be practiced long-term? It's not very sustainable. And now I'm that person being like, can you actually practice this long-term? Is it sustainable? Like, what do you think?
Well, I mean, we have some examples now that it is sustainable. So I kind of look to people who have been doing it, and I just see how I feel. And I just don't see how this could end badly. Like, it's just, we know what's in meat. We know the science at this point. Like, we know all the micronutrients that are in meats that we eat. Plants can't really offer us anything that meat doesn't have. And, we have people like Amber O'Hearn's been doing this for, 9 years. The Andersons have been doing it for 19 to 20 years. And I mean, if anything, this is, I call this the fountain of youth, honestly. Like, this keto really, really helped me, but this has helped me more. It has. It really has.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So because you're more focused on carnivore at this point, like, do you track? Do you do intuitive eating? Did you do it when you were keto? Like, how was that transition, and what's kind of your relationship with food and tracking?
Okay. Yeah. This is something where I'm super the opposite of my husband. My husband is so about the numbers. Like, I get dizzy when he starts telling me the numbers. I'm not a fan of tracking. I prefer to be more intuitive, but I'm also more intuitive by nature. So I do think we all have different personality types, and you have to take that into account. Some people, Danny has tried intuitive, and he's like, I'm not intuitive. I just keep eating. I just keep eating. And I'm like, he's not like me. Like, I can take a bite out of something, or like, I'm more intuitive with my body, I guess. And so I do prefer that, but I do use tracking as a tool when I have a specific goal, if I'm trying to cut body fat, but usually I don't track. I've been tracking lately just because I'm trying to just keep track of my protein. I'm trying to eat a little bit more protein these days. And I tend to undereat. And so that's why I track sometimes, is because just from undereating my entire life, I'm used to it. And like, it's hard. Like, you have to force yourself to eat. And I'm so used to not eating. So I tend to undereat. And so I track sometimes to make sure that I'm eating enough, honestly. So that's how I am. Yeah. With tracking.
Cool. Yeah, I was recently pretty sick. Like I got a flu and a fever and a sinus infection and all kind of
yeah.
back to back to back.
Yeah.
You know, it only happens once a decade, but when it does, it's like boom.
Exactly.
And it took me, like, even now, it's been almost 4.5 weeks since the worst part of it. And I keep having to tell myself, Leanne, eat, because when you're sick, you're not eating. And then you get in the pattern of not eating. And then my hormones get all messed up. So it's so true. If you kind of divert back to that, like if you have a sickness or something happens in your life and you just divert back, it can be really hard to get in that pattern of like, just eat. And I know there are women listening that's like, oh, woe is you. You forget to eat, you jerk.
I know. And I feel bad saying that sometimes, but it's not a good thing either, because the truth is that the reason that it's hard for me to eat is because I've starved myself my entire life, and because I've had such an unhealthy relationship with food. And because I've done that, my resting metabolic rate is very low. I've been working rigorously to try to improve that. And it's, it's like a double-edged sword. Like it's nice because I don't have to, and still it comes everything. It's all perspective, because I on the regular, I usually tend to undereat, but man, if I want to binge, like I will. and it's like, and it's a problem, and so that's the pattern, with like the not eating and then binging. And so it's like, you have to be super mindful. And I have to make myself eat. I do.
Okay. You said two things that I want to kind of delve into. The first is you've been working really hard at boosting your metabolic rate. Can we just chat about that in general, of like, what have you been doing? Kind of, how did you know that I know that there are women that just heard that and it's like, what do you mean? Tell me more about this.
Right. So that's a great question. When you've starved yourself for so long, your body will lower its metabolic rate, out of survival. So, and you can increase that slowly. And what I've been doing, so after I finished my last cut with Keto Savage, which was honestly at this point, it's almost been a year. It was like around KetoCon last year, but KetoCon was later in the year. It was in September. And so, I was pretty low on calories, around 1,200. And then at that point, I just wanted to put on muscle. I realized, okay, I had been working out in the gym. I wanted to cut down to kind of see where I was muscle wise. And I thought I had more muscle than I did. And so it kind of like lit a fire under my butt. And I'm like, okay, no, that's it. I was like, for the first time ever in my entire life, did I ever feel comfortable? And I hate to call it bulking, because I try to still stay relatively lean, but like to actively try to put on muscle and to eat and not be scared to eat. And to do it the right way, not just go from like 1,200 calories and just boom. So we reversed out of that, slowly increasing calories slowly, week by week, until I was, eating a good amount of food. And I had to force myself to eat a post-workout meal, because I was for a while doing the 24-hour fast. Again, not even intentional, just because I'm so busy. Like I go to the gym, I take my kids, we go out, and I'm kind of lazy, so I don't like prepping, and I'm cheap, so I don't want to buy myself food. So there's so many things that go into this. So I had to like start prepping my food and taking something to eat, or making sure that I got myself something, and not even something big, but like making sure that I got like, I don't know, a few eggs after the gym, just something, because I wouldn't eat. And then I was noticing that just eating all my calories in one meal, it wasn't helping me with the results that I wanted, which was putting on muscle, because I'm working out so intensely in the gym. And so the 24-hour fasts weren't working for me. They're good for certain people, but it wasn't working for me. And so I did have to force that post-workout meal. But now it's like, it works. Like I started to feel hungrier, and Danny's like, that's a good sign. That's good. That means you're putting on muscle, and you're getting there, like you're increasing your RMR, and it felt good to not be scared of eating, you know what I mean? And again, it was easier with carnivore, because you don't really, I don't know. I just feel like it's like so hard to be overweight. Like I've never been able to maintain my weight so easily than I have this way with carnivore. So it's been easy to like just eat until satiety, like just eat protein until satiety. And feels great.
Cool. And would you say when you started keto, it sounds like you did you have a poor relationship with food when you started keto? Do you find like keto helped with that poor relationship? Or can we chat a little bit about how you became more intuitive and how your relationship with food has changed?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been a process. We kind of like, I feel like we kind of, like I mentioned, when Desmond was born, which was back in 2011, we were doing CrossFit at the time, and paleo is huge in that community. And that's when we first started, researching about higher fat diets. And I would follow like Weston A. Price. I was drinking a lot of raw milk and, doing the paleo thing. And I loved paleo, but even within paleo, there was cravings, and I would always have to hold back. Like if I was gaining too much weight, it was always like the sweet potatoes, the paleo treats, the honey, all that stuff. So even within paleo, I'm sure there was moments where I was in ketosis just because I had to restrict carbs either way. I always had to. And that's when I first kind of started experimenting with intermittent fasting. And so it's like, I feel like I knew back then, like I was going in the right direction. And then when Danny started powerlifting, it's all his fault, by the way. But no, it's so when he started powerlifting and he stopped doing CrossFit, the culture changed, because powerlifting culture, it's all about the carbs, it's all about the gains. People aren't really concerned about being overweight because that makes you strong. So it's all about being strong and performing. It has nothing to do really, with health. So that's kind of the direction that he started going in. And I had just had Dean. I remained paleo throughout my pregnancy with Dean, and I was doing CrossFit. And then to lose the baby weight, Danny had started, eating this way, and it's just hard to make all different meals for everyone. And that's kind of when If It's Your Macros was gaining popularity, which is such like false advertisement. So, you're starting to see these girls on Instagram and, oh, look, I can eat a donut. It fits in my macros and I'm getting ripped this way and it's fine, whatever. It's just, and so it got in my head and I'm like, all right, well, maybe I can lose weight this way. And so I got with a trainer, like a coach, and this is how I lost the baby weight with Dean, but it was really, really hard. And the reason it's hard is because, it's almost like, first of all, my carbs were never that high where I could eat donuts like this. Like that was never in my macros. My fat was so low. I think like 30 at one point. And then it's also low carb. So it's just like miserable. You're starving all the time. You're never satiated. You're eating all these little meals all day. And I was miserable. And I also had, by the way, postpartum depression, and I was on Zoloft. So that was where we were at. And it took me a while, like, to even realize that I had postpartum depression because we had moved. And so and then of course, this is how it always goes. You go, they're like, oh yeah, it's fine. This happens to everybody. Here's some Zoloft, works for a few weeks. Oh, you just need to increase your dose. Oh, okay. Works for a few weeks. Oh, you need to increase your dose again. And then I kind of just quit at that third time that they increased my dose because the side effects were so horrible that I'm like, whatever, this is going to have to do. And the thing with antidepressants, they don't really make you happy. They just make you not care, which is kind of scary, but it kind of is just like, I don't know. When I look back on that time in my life, honestly, it feels like almost like a dream because it really does. It makes you just like what's the word? Like indifferent. So it's like easier because you're not really stressed out, but you're not really anything, it doesn't really make you happy. So, but I knew. And so Danny and I had been like, this was towards the end of it, like right before we went keto, and Danny had already been talking about this. A friend of his in the gym was like, hey, you got to check this keto stuff out. Look at these keto pancakes, blah, blah, blah. And we had already had like a few weekends, and this would always happen. And this is what always happens with those kinds of diets. We would deprive ourselves all week, low carb, low fat. And then on the weekend, it's like cheat weekend, and it's anything goes. And you're just binging. And I would be like on Sunday night, just the fact that I knew that it was over, like stuffing my face until the minute I went to sleep, even though I wasn't even hungry anymore, just because I knew that it was over. And just this horrible cycle. And then it would take us until like Wednesday to even feel good, And so this cycle happened for a few weeks, and we were tired of it. And so honestly, when Danny mentioned it, I was in, because I knew already from my paleo days that I felt better with fat with my fat being higher, because I felt better with paleo, because I was eating higher fat, it was easier to fast. It was easier to not overeat. And so I was like, well, if that's good, this is going to be even better. And then also at that same time, I was really wanting to try to get off of Zoloft. And I knew that this was going to be the only way. This was going to be my only hope for doing that. So that's really how we came to keto. And yeah, so my relationship with food at that point, to answer your question, was a binge, kind of a deprive yourself and binge cycle. And it was almost like I said, we took a step back, because I feel like I had kind of like helped myself previously with paleo. And then like I was back here in this cycle. And so it felt uncomfortable. And then keto, the minute I started, I was like already, like, I was like, it's immediate. Like the mental clarity was back. I was like, oh, this is so much better. I'm so much more satiated. I'm not like thinking about food all day. And yeah, but it's like sometimes the behaviors are still there, and you're still even within keto. And that's what I try to tell people. I'm like, it's the behavior that has to change, like, yes, you still have to live life. And, when it's it's going to be Dean's birthday on Saturday, we're going to eat keto cake and all this stuff. But like, you can't be having these things every day or binging on these things, because it's still the same behavior. And so that took a while. Like the cravings, keto made my cravings better, but I did notice like, I had to cut back on the sweeteners and stuff like that. Like there's, it can't be like everything goes all the time.
I really hope you're enjoying today's episode. I'd love to see where you're listening from. You can snap a pic and tag me at Leanne Vogel, or leave a review for the show on your favorite podcast player. It helps me out tremendously. Okay, back to the good stuff.
Yeah, I'm so happy you mentioned all of that, because was it like the 4-hour body for a while? That's the one.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I've been on so many diets.
I know, me too. I've so many. So many.
And it's like you eat all these lentils and like everything during the week, and then you have like this all out binge day. And it was like, yeah, we like planned it, and I would order like gluten-free, dairy-free donuts down the block, and you couldn't just get one donut. No. So then I'd get 12 donuts and I'd try to eat all of the donuts. And then you're right, you wouldn't feel good until like Wednesday, Thursday, and then it would repeat. Mm-hmm. And that's how I came to keto, and I was like a hot mess. Yeah. Do you feel like it's hard to explain to people that have never done keto, like just the clarity that happens in your brain, and all of a sudden it's like everything makes sense, and you're like so much more in tune with your body, and it just happens so naturally without even really doing anything? Did you find that was your experience too?
Absolutely. It just felt natural. It felt like freeing, because you don't have to think about it anymore. And when I first started keto, I didn't track. Well, I did track a little bit just to make sure my ratios were right, but I wasn't counting calories. It was just like, let me enter what I've eaten today to see where I'm at, to make sure I got enough fat. And it was amazing. Like I didn't even lose that much weight at first. Like I lost the initial, and like I still had maybe of the baby weight, because I was still nursing too. And I always tend to hold on to some weight when I'm nursing, maybe like 10-ish pounds to pre-baby weight. And I only lost like 2 or 3 initially. And then I kind of stalled, but honestly, I didn't really care. I didn't even care, because even though I wasn't as light as I was, like I was already seeing so many other changes. Like my skin was better. I was considering getting Botox. Like I was already talking about this, like when we had moved here, and this was when I was on the low fat diet, and and I'm sure you've seen a difference in your skin too. Everyone sees it. It's just like, I went from like, wow, I need Botox to, oh, I don't need it anymore. Like this fixed whatever skin issue I was having. My cellulite was better. I was like, well, I'm losing weight. Why do I had so much cellulite? Like you just I didn't feel like tight, like your skin. I was starting to feel old, honestly. Like, and I'm not like, I don't feel like I'm old, but I was starting to feel that feeling like, oh gosh, and I swear, like it was so fast, like right within a few weeks of starting keto, my skin looked better already, and my cellulite had gone down. And so I didn't really care if like the scale wasn't going down that much, because I felt like I looked better. So I didn't really care.
Yeah. And so you mentioned something a little while ago about fasting, and that you stopped fasting when you were working out. Do you fast now, or do you tend not to? And what was that like?
Yeah, I still do intermittent fasting daily. I have my bulletproof coffee in the morning, but I won't eat. I don't wake up that hungry. So, and I don't like to eat before I work out. So it depends at what time I'm working out. But I usually am getting to the gym like around 9 a.m. So I don't eat. I'll have my coffee and then I won't eat until when I'm done, which is like around noon. I have experimented with like some longer fasts on like weekends, just with Danny. The longest one I was ever able to get through was 46 hours. It was really hard, but I did it, and it was like on a weekend when I wasn't training or anything. And I still think that it's a great tool and people should use it, especially if they have like lingering issues. And it's definitely something that I'm going to do in the future. But just right now I'm training so hard all the time that I can't be doing 24-hour fasts every day, but I do IF pretty much every day. So I stop eating around like 7 p.m. every day. And I won't really eat again until noon the next day. I don't even know how many hours that is, but that's kind of like around where we are.
It's really nice to just not know how many hours that is.
I don't even know. I mean, every day it's different. Like some days we'll eat dinner earlier and some days we'll eat a little later. And I kind of just go with how I feel, honestly. It's a little easier for me to be intuitive because I'm the type of person that like, if I say I'm going to fast, I'm hungry already. Like the fact that I said that and like, I know that it like does something, like it's like the fact that you can't eat, you're like, but I'm hungry. So I feel like if I just like live my life and listen to my body and not really make so many rules for myself, that it's actually easier for me to stay on track. When I start making so many rules, it makes me feel confined or something, which is funny because Danny's the total opposite. Like he needs those rules to follow the plan. Like I'm like, no, the rules make me go off plan. Like even with paleo, like every time I tried to do a Whole30, I failed miserably because I probably ate better before I tried the Whole30 because I'm just like, I'm doing a Whole30. I can't have all these things. And so if I'm hungry and I didn't plan on eating that day, I didn't plan on eating breakfast, but I'm like, man, I'm really hungry right now. I'll just eat a little something like a hard-boiled egg or, just anything to make me feel better.
Yeah, I'm the same way with rules. I'm such a rebel.
I really hope you enjoyed that episode. Next up on the podcast, Wednesday, September 16th, we have episode 270, where my friend Tori Borelli is coming on the show to chat with us about life-changing keto habits to prevent disease. This is an interview, so I'm interviewing her. We're chatting a bunch back and forth, really fun. Sunday, September 20th, episode 271, David Hauser is on the show chatting about how to just question the common health narrative. This episode is really good for beginners in the health space who they're not good at asking questions of people just yet. I've been in that space where I trust everyone. Even now, a doctor told me a couple months ago to go on this supplement without even asking a question. I just went on it and started having all these symptoms. I'm like, Leanne, I should have asked questions. I should have stood up for myself. And sometimes we just forget. So if you need a good reminder, that episode is for you. And I will see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Keto Diet Podcast. Join us again in a couple of days to discover more Keto for Women secrets for your fat-fueled life. The Keto Diet Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor should it be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Keto Diet Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representations or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.